All righty. Well, we have Julie here today on the Find Food Freedom podcast. Very fitting because you are a part of Find Food Freedom. So I'm super excited for all of these introduction story podcasts. And I'm just going to start it off with Julie. What was your relationship with food like growing up? Whenever you want to start, whatever
Yes.
comes up.
So, when I think about this, when I was thinking about this before we were getting ready to meet, I had a very normal relationship with food growing up. I did not come from a family that was entrenched in diet culture. I did not have a mom or a dad that discussed my body or discussed food. We didn't have restrictions really in our home. So, thinking about like where it started, I really had a very decent relationship with food and my body growing up. So I think when it started was when I was a freshman in college, kind of towards the end of my freshman year in college. I um, I found out I had a tumor in my eustachian tube, and I was going to have like major surgery, and it freaked me out. It wasn't cancer, but it was still a very big surgery, and I had to have it in New York. And at the time, I had had a boyfriend that year, and he had broken up with me, and those two things put me in like a terrible depression, I guess. I didn't have a lot of appetite. I didn't eat for several weeks during all of that. And because of that, the side effect was I lost a lot of weight. And it was very interesting because it was the first time I ever I was already in a small body, and I never really had issues with my body at all. I really actually, I was comfortable in my body. But when I got small was when things changed, because the praise and the attention and oh my God, you look amazing. What are you doing? What did you do? It made me feel like, well, what was wrong with me before? Like, what? I don't understand why I'm getting so much. I mean, and it was over the summer, and I got a lot of attention for it. And when I went back to school sophomore year, um, I went back to my normal way of life, and I was just eating and drinking. Obviously, I was in college. I was, and I gained that weight back, and I gained more. And then I was stuck with like, wait a minute, like I'm not I'm not really good anymore. Like I'm not maybe getting the attention I was before when I was smaller. So that was really the beginning of trying to attain this very unsustainable weight for probably the next 25 years, I guess.
Yeah. And I remember you telling me at one point or another that you had read intuitive eating at some point, but you were just like, something like that sounds nice, but like, no, I can't do that. Or,
Yeah, I mean, I want to say in my early 20s, because I was yo-yoing literally all through college. We would get a beach house every summer. And so I would work really hard all year trying to sustain this weight, and then I would go live with my friends at the beach and gain all my weight back, and then I'd start school again. And I think also controlling my weight while I was in college was a lot of controlling things that I couldn't control around me. So the numbers, the weight, the counting of the calories, like that gave me a form of control that like just comforted me. And I want to say through my internship, it got very bad. And then when I became a dietitian and I started working somewhere in my mid 20s, I found intuitive eating, and I still have the original copy. And I remember reading it going, this, fuck no, I can't do this. Like, I'm gonna just eat whatever I want. Like, oh, hell no. I like read the whole thing. This is great, but not for me. And like I never really thought about it again until I started doing this work when I joined Find Food Freedom. And So it was it was really hard. My 20s were just, and my 30s really were just a constant, just never able to reach and sustain the smallness that I had gotten when I was 19, and for no reason at all, just kind of elicited this terrible relationship with food and my body.
Yeah. Do you feel like when you first read intuitive eating that you just weren't ready to hear it? I would love to hear like now, like you have this totally different perspective thinking of younger Julie reading it. What do you think? w- Why do you think it didn't stick with you then?
I think the thoughts, I was very restrictive with food. When I was in my internship, I had a little tiny notepad, like a little notebook, and I wrote down every single thing I ate, and it wasn't allowed to go past a certain number of calories. And I exercised 7 days a week. I had no social life. If I was never allowed to miss a day. And the thought of releasing that control and allowing myself that freedom to just eat what I wanted and to listen to my body was just not, I was not ready. I was not there for it. I mean, I remember my roommate making cookies when I was in my internship, chocolate chip cookies, and she was baking them and they were on the counter and wanting them so bad. And I just ate rice cakes with jelly. And every time I went into the kitchen, instead of grabbing a cookie, I had another rice cake and jelly. And I must have eaten 10,000 rice cakes and jelly. If I had just eaten the fucking cookie, like everything would have been fine. But I didn't know any of that at the time. And I feel like if there was something like what we do now back then, and I could have been able to have support and to know that like what I was feeling was validated, I just had nowhere to turn. And the book itself honestly just scared the shit out of me, and I just didn't have the wherewithal to like take it on by myself.
Yeah. And I think back then too, social media wasn't a thing, right? So it's like you're reading this paperback book and you're like, all right, this is nice that these authors think that, but like, is there anyone else in the world that does this? Like there's no community to that. So it's wild me hearing some of these details that I maybe didn't know before, because that's not the Julie that I know today. So for people that maybe haven't worked with you before or have never met you, what is your relationship with food like today?
So I will be very honest. Today, I feel amazing with my relationship with food and my body. Um, when we went through our intuitive eating certification, I I I wasn't 100% at that point. That certification, both personally and professionally, helped me to see a lot of things that were not apparent even over the last 25 years. And I want to say it's not that like I haven't been respecting my body or I didn't have a good relationship with food for the last several years. I just didn't realize that what I was doing was working on intuitive eating when I didn't really know I was doing it. So when we were getting the certification, I was like, okay, this is it. Today, I feel like food is just food. I mean, I was somebody that thought about what I was going to eat 24 hours a day. I mean, my family, all my family lives here in Florida, right where, 10, 15 minutes from me. We get together a lot. I had to bring my food with me wherever I went. I wouldn't allow, I had so many restrictions. And the quality of life that I have now is the best that I've ever had. And I think the other thing is that has come up is that I'm going through menopause. Like I'm in my early 50s, and understanding that our bodies change. They change when we go through puberty, they change when we start having children, and it changes again when we go through menopause. And it's such a unspoken thing, and it's so shameful when our bodies change because we're going through this normal thing that everybody's going to go through, right? I was just at the gym this morning and a friend of mine said, I can't lose weight and my stomach and I'm going through menopause and this is terrible and I work out every day and I just wanted I couldn't even get in it with her. I just wanted to kind of cry for her and just be like, just can you just accept it? Like I think that for me, as my body changed over the last couple years, really understanding that like these are the seasons of our bodies and it's okay. And I'm okay with that. And so to answer your question, I would say today, I have the best relationship with food. I have the best relationship with my body. Food is just food to the point where like when you restrict something, it becomes so exciting and so inviting, and it's just not like that anymore. I mean, I even find that the things I restricted that I wanted so much, I don't even like anymore. I don't even want them. Like, who knew? Like, it's crazy when you go through the journey, like what comes up for you afterwards.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that, it's so taboo that people think that like practitioners don't struggle, like we're humans too. And doing our own work is important to be able to support our clients. And this is a really hard question. It's a really broad question, but is there anything you can pinpoint specifically, whether it be with food or body, that was really transformational for you during your journey, that it all clicked for you? Or was there anything that really stood out that helped you accept your body changing, or anything you can think of?
Well, there were a couple things, and I don't know if this is the right answer, but I got to the point in my late 40s and early 50s where when I felt like my weight wasn't where I want it and I would try to diet, my body was like, fuck no, not happening anymore. Nothing was working the way it used to. Nothing would budge. And it was almost like it was a forced acceptance of like, well, this isn't working anymore. I guess I'll just live my life. And so that was a big part of it. Like I couldn't do anything anymore to lose weight. It just, my body, for whatever reason, was just stuck. And then I think now, already being an intuitive eater, I think the pandemic also was interesting in terms of exercise for me, because I went to the gym like 4 or 5 days a week, really because I loved it. And then the pandemic came and I stopped going to the gym. And so I had to find something that my body enjoyed and wanted to do that didn't allow me to go to the gym. And so I started walking. And for the first time, like walking became this movement that my body was like needed. And so that had really changed kind of how I thought about exercise, which is also part of the intuitive eating kind of transformation, like transforming how you think about exercise, wanting to change your body, and then finding movement that just feels good to your body, that has no outcome of change for your body. But I would say, weirdly enough, just not even being able to lose weight anymore put me in this place of acceptance. And then just realizing that like, I'm too old for this. Like I'm done with this. Like I have wasted so much brain space and so much time and not doing things I wanted to do socially or with families because of what kind of food was going to be present. And so I think those were things that just kind of happened. And then I just kind of ran with it and kind of let it go, kind of quietly on its own. And then, like I said, just when you start digging into the intuitive eating certification process, that 6 months was just like helped me to just kind of validate everything that I was already feeling and really solidified like what I was going through.
Yeah, that certification was life-changing for
Yeah,
sure.
totally.
To those who say, well, I'm too old for intuitive eating, what would you say to them?
Oh my God. No, please. You don't need to waste one more freaking day of your life. It's just not worth it. And I've had clients, in their 60s and 70s, and I have such empathy that like to that point, in your life, you're still concerned about eating a cookie, or you're still concerned about being a certain size or a weight on the scale. Like, you don't need to waste any more time in diet culture. There's no place for it. And the beauty of living a life and intuitive eating and the quality of life that you have is just extraordinary. There's nothing else like it. And so I would say don't let the fear hold you back. You know, I had that fear in my mid 20s. If I had just had something like what we offer now, I could have lived like the next 25 years without ever having to worry about it. It makes me sad to think that I had to go through so much more of my life dealing in diet culture when I could have possibly, you know, been ending it in my early 20s. But no, I don't think there's any age that is a cutoff that you shouldn't be working on this.
Yeah.
It's
I'm gonna
important work.
could not agree more. And I know we have a few clients in their 70s that we love, and they're some of the best ones because they, like you said, they look back and they say, if I could do anything differently, it would have been to start this journey earlier.
Yeah. I mean, and I think they're the ones that kind of get it quickly. They're like, holy shit, oh my God, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know, and I think um you know, it's transformational to watch somebody else go through this process and come out on the other end and feel that they've changed their life as well.
Yeah. Awesome. So, is there anything unspoken that we didn't say that you feel like is important for the listeners to know about just anything related to your relationship with food, body, movement, intuitive eating in general?
I think that, you know, I kind of came about intuitive eating a little bit from the back door. I didn't really know I was doing it when I was doing it. And then once I started kind of working in working with it, I realized, you know, I am doing it. And then, like I said, the certification. I think that there's a lot of fear around it, that loss of control. And from my experience working with so many women now and in so many different platforms and groups and one-on-one, that fear is short-lived. It's a couple weeks to get through that kind of uncontrolled feeling until you kind of start to become in tune with your body. And when you start recognizing that, you know, you can listen to your body, you can tune in to your hunger and your fullness and your cravings. That's the way we were brought into this world, and that's the way we need to be living every day. And so I think just the bottom line is just, I feel like I want to change every woman's life to be an intuitive eater, not just because I personally have gone through it, but I've seen so many women go through this. And it is so gratifying when they come out the other end and they just have a better handle on their life. And it's sometimes not just always about the food, right? There's so much more that's involved that's life changing.